here in Egypt, you study, you specialize very early, and I did my university years in Cairo University, so I only studied engineering, and I was not exposed to liberal education. And so for the first year, on top of my normal studies, I would go and do courses in sociology, psychology, law, business school. I did one but in psychology department. My best class at Stanford was a class on cognitive psychology, and how people form attributions, and how people develop ideas of their surroundings, etc., and the type of heuristics that they use in order to uh, get ideas, and it allowed me a window to see how people can make wrong attributions and very easily, and how disagreements can happen very and this is the root of two big sciences, one on behavioral economics and one on negotiations.
And I think that this whole foundational interest that you had, this interest in psychology, do you feel that it infuses how you approach your work?
Absolutely.
How? Explain.
It's about how people make attributions, cognition, how you use certain heuristics to form certain ideas. So if I tell you, for example, three of those heuristics are availability, representatives, and anchoring. So if I ask you a question, how many countries do you think are in Africa? 30. If I ask you the question, how many countries do you think are in Africa? 60. You will come up with a different answer, because you will move from the anchor that I gave you on. So 60, if you think this is too much, you'll go 55. If you 30, you'll go to 40. So this is very well-known phenomenon in how people negotiate.
And I was going to ask you, you use this in your negotiation.
This is exactly, this is how people think about those types of cognition and heuristics, etc., allows you to
Do you consciously use these formulas or these
I don't
tactics?
know whether I consciously use them or not.
But you feel that this knowledge has helped you in negotiations. Yeah. Interesting.
When I came back in 1992, I had no idea of what I wanted to do. And I thought that academia may not be what I wanted to do, but I did not know what I wanted to do.
And you were at this point, how old were you?
I was 31.
So
and that's very late.
It's late
To start a career.
and to still be uncertain about your direction.
I had no clue of what I wanted to do. And Dr. Taimur, the founder of EFG and a professional mentor of mine,
and an uncle,
kidnapped me 3 days into my return to Egypt, and he told me, you should come and work for EFG. So I said, okay, let us try. So I was, for the first year in 1992 and 93 until June of 93, I thought that I was doing both things. It also helped that the distance between engineering school and our first office of EFG was 3 minutes walking. So that was a bonus for me. But after the first year, I thought that EFG is what I wanted to do, and I decided that this is and EFG, there were a lot of pivots. There are a lot of pivots within the EFG, good and bad. When I joined, EFG was a very small boutique firm with 5 employees. 5 employees / partners.
Yes.
I was not a partner at that point in time. the turning point, the first turning point at EFG was a meeting that I had with Dr. Taimur. I was going on a private trip to London, and he told me this guy from Lehman Brothers came in. His name is Daniel Smoller. Try to meet him during your trip to London. I met with the guy. I must have impressed him because he told me, Ahmed, I am coming to Egypt with 3 very large investors. Please arrange the trip for us. I went the following day. I went to Dr. Taimur, said we need to turn EFG into an investment bank. He told me, let me think about it. Later on, he said, no, EFG is an advisory firm and it will remain an advisory firm. A long story, cut a long story short, another big pivot point came in 1995. In 1995, there was a meeting between myself and Hani Tawfiq, then a partner of EFG. I was at that point in time a 10% partner at EFG. I had bought 10% for 100,000 pounds. The following, I had a meeting with Hani. I said we were looking at a valuation of a company that we had a mandate to value, and I thought the value was 25. He thought the value was 6 million pounds. I thought 25 million, and then at a certain point in time, but he said this company has no assets, and I told him yes, but it has very good people, and he said very good people. What people? He was dismissive a little bit. So I told him, okay, so but this is what EFG has good people. He
As
said,
an advisory company,
yeah.
This is where your asset is.
So he told me, yeah, but how much would you value EFG for? I said, how much would you value it for? He told me I would sell my shares 36% for 1 million pounds. Okay, so I had by sheer coincidence, I had my checkbook in my book pocket. I got it out and I wrote a check for 1 million pounds, which I did not have.
So you used the psychology on him.
No, I did not use the psychology. No, I did not. It
wasn't necessary.
Pure circumstance. There was no. He had no intention to sell. I had no intention to buy. But the way he put it, he said, I would sell my shares for 1 million pounds. I said, okay, I bought your shares and I got my check. Here you are. And I have those framed out on the outside. On our way out, I will show you this.
Tell me about the start of Ella.
We were looking for the first deal. The first deal was an important deal, and we were looking for it. We identified it. But it took much longer to close. And at a certain point, Hisham Khazandar came to me, said, is it time to fold? We're not doing the first deal, but we kept at it, and we
what
did
was the first deal?
The first deal was ASIC. Yeah, ASIC was one of those deals that will never be repeated. Because we invested $2 million and we probably made $600 million of return.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that you don't see.
Never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again, and will never be seen. And the second deal was equally successful. It was the leverage buyout of a fertilizers company called Egyptian Fertilizers Company. Again, we invested, if I remember correctly, we invested maybe $15 million and we made 150. So it was also a huge success. And then we decided that valuations at that point in time were extremely expensive. That wasn't. Now we're going
2002, 3.
2007
already. Okay. Yeah.
So we did those two deals.
Yeah.
And in 2005, we thought valuations were starting to get higher and higher and higher, and that anybody participating in deals in private equity at the time were not going to make money, because in private equity you have to buy relatively at a good price and sell at a
absolutely.
okay. So
but at the time, or even until now, not now, but at that time, were you only looking at Egyptian companies?
yes.
Only.
At that point in time, we were looking at Egyptian companies that we could take regionally. In 2009 and 2010, we were concluding a lot of those deals, a lot of those companies, the financing of those companies, and building them. So we ended up building, and during those 3 years, 2 years, a lot of companies.
And with the financial crisis of 2008, you were still able to continue with the development of those
Yes.
companies? Okay.
And that was using the firm's own capital, because at that point in time, co-investors of ours were no longer willing to invest. So we had to carry the weight of those investments, and those investments in their totality were each one of them was a very large company. So we had a glass company that we started. Now it's called Sphinx Glass, one of the largest companies in Egypt. We had 2 cement plants, ASIC Cement in Minya and Takamul Cement in Sudan. We had ERC, we had Tanmeya, we had a lot of businesses that we took from being not fully developed till the time they were producing.
But at some point, Ahmed, didn't you have to make a decision as to which of those companies you had to put your resources behind, and which you had to?
We got them all out of the door. There was no decision. There were a lot of calls within the firm to concentrate on some companies, but we ended up being able to conclude everything until 2000. But then we got extremely unlucky with the timing of the
revolution
ERC closing.
What did it take out of you, this entire experience, the 2008 crisis, followed by the revolution? And did you feel that it was almost like a mission that you had to finish ERC? Did you feel invigorated by it? Were you excited by it, challenged by it, or were you just trying to get to the finish line?
I was trying to get to the finish line. I was trying to get. I would think. I would sit here and think, if I go back, I'm 100% finished. If I continue, I'm 95% finished, because I'm not going to reach the other side. It's out of sheer will and determination that we ended up reaching on the other side. Thank God today we are making $3 million a day of profit. So let me not,
it's not a sub story.
It's not a small investments, and we are ending up being rewarded by it.
Yeah.
But it took a huge toll on.
What did you learn from it? From the
experience?
experience?
Never start a business until you're fully financed, because there is the escalation of commitment process that takes place, and you're tempted spending the additional $5 million, $50 million,
and it's incremental,
and at the end you end up being 7 months pregnant with no possibility of aborting.
Yeah.
That was a combination of events that constituted a black swan.
Yeah.
What is the probability
exactly
of having a global financial crisis followed by a revolution, followed by another revolution, we passed through in Egypt through a very difficult time that is, you could not have foreseen. The takeaway is what I told you. Don't invest beyond a very small amount of money until you reach financial closing. At that point in time, everything can start.